John Carpenter, Lost Themes 3, let's do it! Hey guys, what's going on? John here from What's Spinning, here to chat about this new John Carpenter album. John Carpenter, famed movie director and also composer. He is responsible for some of the most timeless movie scores of all time. The Thing, Escape from New York, Assault on Precinct 13, and of course, Halloween. If you haven't heard these soundtracks, you have some homework to do. But a few years ago, John totally caught me off guard with his Lost Themes album. And as a matter of fact, when I first heard about this thing, I kind of thought that John was just itching to get into the studio and put out some stuff. But this was a really cool little collection of unused themes. And honestly, they really should have been because most of them sounded pretty good. However, Lost Themes 2, on the other hand, really let me down. It wasn't bad, but it was unbearably inconsistent. I don't remember what blog I read it on at the time, but someone said that it was the main reason that John Carpenter was not known for sequels. So much so, I almost completely wrote this new one off, but I thought the singles leading up to this sounded like the quality of material he was putting out on his first Lost Themes project. Let's chat about this thing. This album starts off with Alive After Death, and honestly, I'm feeling this. Hey, it's got those super eerie synths that John Carpenter loves so much, but it also shows that he's back in the progressive realm. I love the way that this one creeps onwards, adds layer after layer. The pacing on this is brilliant, and overall, I think this is kind of where it should be for him right now. This doesn't sound like John Carpenter messing around in the studio. No, it sounds like something that could be used. And that guitar solo is a really nice touch. Weeping Ghost, on the other hand, is much more immediate. It's even a little heavy. It's certainly much more, suffocating than what we're used to hearing from John Carpenter. And just hearing the meat on the bones of this one is very exciting for me. It has a purpose to it, it excites the hell out of me, and most importantly, it makes me want to dive deeper into this album. It also has this really weird, off-kilter, ghoulish groove to it. I am digging this. Dead Eyes, on the other hand, has a very whimsical sort of dark fantasy vibe to it. It almost has that Goblin Suspiria sound to it. But it's really spacious. It shows John Carpenter really pushing himself. He tries something new here, and this track progresses really nicely. And Vampire's Touch is shockingly tragic and really emotional. It starts slow, it ends slow, but it has a little bit of progression in it, and it has a very cinematic feel to it as well. For a track called Vampire's Touch, I'm shocked with how human this comes off. It's one of the least horror-inspired tracks here. But it's still gloriously campy, especially in the later moments where those big, bulky synths pop in. This album isn't perfect, though. As a matter of fact, John Carpenter kind of still has some consistency issues. Dripping Blood is one of the least immediate tracks here, which, honestly, usually I don't think would be a very bad thing. I don't mind being patient for John Carpenter tracks. But sadly, this is one of the most boring tunes here. Like I said, if John Carpenter wants to take it slow and have a slow-burning track that progresses at its own pace, that's totally fine. But this isn't nearly as bold or powerful. It's very uneventful, super light on the ears, and it reminds me of what I didn't like about his last album. Some of the more low-key moments later on, too, let me down, like Cemetery. This one has a lot of promise. Those slow, winding synths in the background that make up this track's atmosphere are pretty cool, actually. But the constant, fluttering synths are just really annoying. Carpenter, to me, could just do so much more with so little. It's what's made him a mainstay for years. And Turning the Bones, why not necessarily bad, is unbelievably safe. Once again, we see him going in the more dark fantasy realm here, which usually I don't hate. But this to me just doesn't progress at all. There are a few okay moments, but most of the time on this album, I'm just kind of tapping my foot, waiting for this to pick up a little bit. The rest of this album is very decent progressive electronic, especially if you're a John Carpenter fan. You're going to want to hear at least a chunk of this album. Skeleton is very solid. This is John Carpenter by the books in the best way. And like a lot of his first Lost Themes album, this kind of sounds ready for the floor. It just sounds like it can be used as is. Not only that, but it's a complete thought. Like, this to me doesn't sound like John Carpenter. Feeling a little spooky, just feeling the urge to hop in the studio. No, this sounds like something he really loved making. And I love the genuine feelings of dread that creep in as well. And The Dead Walk is one of the best tracks here. This track is gloriously campy. It also has some of the best synth work on the entire album. I love the beat, the layering here is fantastic, and I just really love getting lost within this track. Also, not for nothing, from a progressive standpoint, this is one of the most progressive. We run the gauntlet here from very sorrowful, quiet lows to some pretty high grooves as well. It's great. And Carpathian Darkness as a finale is pretty enjoyable as well. It's one of the more low-key tracks here from start to finish, but once again, it's a complete thought. It may not be the epic, triumphant finale that I had hoped for, but I am enjoying this. It keeps my interest, it's really fascinating, and it makes me want to revisit the original Lost Themes album. So, this isn't anything mind-blowing or revolutionary in the catalog of Mr. John Carpenter, but if you're a fan of progressive electronic, or you're a fan of John Carpenter's work, or the original Lost Themes album, give this a shot. It's decent. It's a return to form from where he started this series that made it so interesting. And yes, there are some consistency issues. Yes, some tracks are kind of duds, but overall, this is certainly decent. I'm feeling a decent 7 on this thing, but let me know what you guys think down below. If you liked the video, be sure to give us a like, give us a subscribe, and let me know down below what you would like for me to chat about in the future. And until next time, have a great day, guys.